All right, boys and girls, today we are upside down. Let's see if I can fix that. All right, we're going to be looking at lesson 3 from our math. So it's modeling fractions and decimals. So today's a little bit of a break for you guys. We won't be quite as hard as we have been the other days. So again, we're going to start our notes by writing chapter 1, which is place value. And it's lesson 3, which is model fractions and decimals. All right. And yesterday I was having an issue with my camera system, so I ended up recording your lesson a couple times, which honestly is quite frustrating. So I think that I made a couple mistakes. One being that in your notes, I think I wrote chapter 1 place value, and it should be lesson 2, not lesson 1. So please change that in yesterday's notes. Lesson 2 was compare and order whole numbers through millions. Okay, so going back to today's lesson, get myself organized here. All right, we are looking at decimals and fractions now. So decimals and fractions represent pieces of numbers. So we had a whole number. We now separated it maybe into halves or fourths. And so now we have pieces left over. So when we look at this, first of all, we want to look at vocabulary. So the little dot that goes at the bottom of a line like this is a decimal point. A decimal point, actually I'm going to write this out, decimal point separates whole numbers from pieces of numbers. Whole. So whole numbers from parts of numbers. Parts of numbers. Again, if I write faster than you do, then I need you to pause me, and it's not going to hurt my feelings at all because honestly, I wouldn't even know, right? All right, so today after you take these notes, you do need to take a picture of these and upload them to your assignment. So you'll do front of this, back side of this, or sorry, and take that back. Front of this, back of this work paper, and you're going to give me a picture of your notes too. Okay, so now going to our book here, so everyone should have their book, we are going to look at modeling. So the easiest way to look at decimals and fractions is to actually see them. So if we have this number 3/10, that means we have 3 out of 10 of something. So in this case, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pieces inside of this box. So every time we see 10 pieces, we're going to color in 3. So you'll color 1, 2, 3. So that shows you 3 out of 10 are shaded. So if we look at this, and we want to write it in decimal form, there are no whole numbers because we're talking about pieces of numbers right now. We have a decimal point, and then we have 3 out of 10. So 3/10 are showing. All right, so let's go look over here. If we have, let's make just a really long box, and we'll separate it in half. And then in that half, you're going to put 4 lines. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. And over here in this next half, I'm going to put 5 lines, or 4 lines. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's 10 pieces. So we're going to write 10 by putting a fraction with a 10 over the top. And let's color in 6 of those. Okay, so if 6 are colored, how many out of 10 are colored? Well, that's 6. Okay, so this is the fraction form of 6/10. This is a model form of 6/10. But now we need to find the decimal. How we're going to write it is a decimal. So that's actually going to be 0 whole numbers, and the decimal point says and we have 6/10. So 6 out of 10. So let's make this really very clear. Remember how, okay, so we have a decimal point here, right? This number right here, let's just say it's a 1. This is the ones column. It's on the other side of the decimal point. It's the ones column. Over here is the tens column. Remember we talked about this the other day? And here is the hundreds column. So those are all whole numbers. There's no pieces of numbers. Those are actual whole numbers, okay? But on this side of the decimal point, on the right side, these are all going to be your decimals, the pieces of your numbers. So we'll put a 9 here just to kind of look at it. That's going to stand for tenths. So this is 9/10. See how it says THS on it? You know the difference between tens and tenths because THS is on the right side of the decimal point. If these are tenths, then this next number here are going to be hundredths. Again with the THS. You'll notice there's no oneths. So it goes straight to tens and it goes then into hundreds. Okay? So let's go back to this paper here. So now we're looking at hundreds. So we have 9 out of 100. So if you look at this board has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 going this way. And if we look this way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 going that way. Well, this is an array. So 10 by 10 equals 100. So now I know that there's a total possibility of having 100 squares here. Now, so if I want to do 9 out of 100, all I have to do is color in 9 squares. And that gives me 9 out of 100, right? Okay, so if I have 9 out of 100, let's write that in decimal form. I have 0 whole numbers. I have my decimal form. Are there any tenths? Well, no, because look there's not one whole row shaded. But remember up here, if there's a whole row, then that's 1/10. Another whole row is 2/10. Another whole row is 3/10. But down here, I don't have a full tenth colored in, so there's 0/10. But then how many out of 100 do I have? And I have 9 out of 100. So the thing with this is I know it's kind of confusing for some people because it's a little, I'm going to say too simple. Sometimes we like things to be a little harder so that we understand them. And this is just not going to be, it's going to be so simple that it's going to feel hard. So just be open to it being easy, okay? So on the back side now we have 34 out of 100. So they gave us another grid with 100 on there. And we need to color in 34 squares. So that means I'm going to have a row of 10 and another row which will give me to 20. Another row will get me to 30. And then I have my 4 singles. So I now have 34 out of 100 squares shaded in. But now I need to do that in decimal form. So are there any whole boards? There's no boards that are completely covered in, right? And if there's not one whole board covered in, then that means I have 0 whole boards. Okay, but then I look at the tenths and I say, how many full rows are colored in? 1, 2, 3 full rows are covered in. And then how many singles are covered? 1, 2, 3, 4. So my answer is 34 hundredths. And this is how you read this. You read it like it's a regular number. So 34, but because it's on this side of the decimal point, remember these are tenths and these are hundredths. So you say 34 hundredths. Okay. Let's go ahead. Actually, let's do this one, even though, okay, never mind. We're going to look at this cube here. If we only had that part of the cube, it would be hundredths. But now we have this huge part, and this represents thousands. So see this word thousands here? So thousands. So we're going to look at this, and when we look at it, see how this top square, this top cube, is colored on the top and the bottom? You only count the one on this side. Don't count the one on the top, okay? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 out of how many total squares on this whole thing? Well, if it's called a thousandths cube, it's going to be out of 1,000. Okay, so let's write this down in decimal form. How many whole thousands are there? How many cubes are completely covered in? That's going to be a 0. Are there any tenths? Do we have any rows that are completely covered in? That's a no. Do we have any hundred sides that are totally covered in? That's another no. But now do we have any singles? And yes, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 4 thousandths. So if we're writing that in word form, it would look like that. 4 thousandths. Because remember, everything after the decimal point on the right side has the THS at the end. Okay, so let's go back to our notes. Because now we need to add one more number here to show that these are thousandths. And I'm going to make a little note down below. I'm going to write every number on the right side of the decimal point has THS at the end of the place value term. So for example, if I'm here and I go to the next one, it would be hundred thousandths, or down the line would be millionths. I can't even say that word, millionths. Okay? All right. Now let's look at your work for today so you guys can see. We'll do a couple of each one. We'll do number 9, kind of the middle of the road. And the question or the directions say, shade the model to show each fraction. Write each fraction in word form. So we have one job to shade and one job to write it in word form. So we have 2 jobs on each of these, which is why there's 2 lines. So I'm going to shade 21 out of 100. Well, I know that means I have 2 full rows plus 1 more. So that's job 1. I've shaded it. And job 2 is I need to write it in word form. So I look at this and I say, well, this is 21, so I'm still going to write 21. And then I write what's down here, hundredths with the THS. Okay? Now for this bottom one, the directions just say to write the decimal for each model. So if I look at this, I'm going to pick, I'll just pick 13. I look at this and I know I'm writing a decimal, so I say, are there any whole grids filled? And the answer is no, so there's a 0. Then I give a decimal point. Then, how many tenths are completely colored in? That would be a 1. We have 1/10 completely covered in. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So my answer is 17 hundredths. Okay, guys? Remember to check in today at 9:45 if you guys need help. You are going to, let's flip it all around. Super big close-up here. You are going to take your picture today of this side. You're going to take a picture of this side, and you're going to take a picture of this, and you're going to submit those to us attached to your work. Thanks. Have a good day.